I'm going to call this meeting to order. If y'all would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Miller, would you lead the invocation?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, once again, Lord, if we would do anything, we say we are so thankful for this day that you allowed us to witness, that we realize we'll never witness again. We ask you, Heavenly Father, that we prepare to go forward with the business of this city, that you would give us the wisdom to make the correct decision. And then, Lord, whatever decision we make, we pray, Lord, that it'll be pleasing in thy sight. We ask you, Lord, to continue, Lord, to bless this land that we live in. And, Lord, we ask you to just continue, Lord, to shower down your blessing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Could I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So made.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 5 is to approve the docket of claim numbers listed on your agenda. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 6 is to approve the minutes from the regular Mayor and Board of Alderman meeting of August 6th.
So move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Item 7 is the consent agenda. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Consent agenda is approved. Item 8 is the personnel agenda. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Item 9 is the donations docket. Is there a motion on that?
Motion to approve. Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. I will make note that one of those is Addison Tree Care that has offered to trim up some bad dead spots on the oak trees out there at Commerce and Church Street there by the tennis courts. So that'll be happening early tomorrow morning, most likely. If y'all would kind of everybody watch and be a little more careful when they're driving tomorrow morning. Those of you who get up at 6. Item 10 is PL 1832. Austin, would you like to lead that one?
Yes, sir. The next 3 applications all are final plat requests for Delta Landing subdivision, so they're all kind of together. They've been split apart just for timing of the development and the recording of plat. Generally, one's primarily a residential plat, one's a mixed-use plat, and one is a commercial plat to account for the storage. And I'll go over the project as a whole, and I'll dive off in each one individually for the specifics. Nick Crin is here tonight representing PL 1832. The first application is for the mixed-use building, Delta Landing Commercial Phase 1. A little background on the site for the next 3. The Brighton Village PUD approved in 2007, and the board approved the revision to the current land use text of Delta Landing on March 7, 2023, and then a revision to the lot arrangement, most notably deleting the lots on the north side, was approved on June 18, 2024. PL 1832 is, as I mentioned, the mixed-use plat on 1.6 acres. I've included it on page 4 of your staff report, general vicinity of where this is in relation to everything else. And so you see the colored map of the PUD as a whole. I've highlighted in red what this plat is. That's the first building proposed to go under construction, and will include the building and then that main street boulevard, or the main street you see connecting the 2 Mackinville egress points. And so this plat of 1.6 acres encompasses that mixed-use building and the connecting road. The setbacks are listed in your staff report, and this proposal does substantially conform with that of the preliminary submittal as it meets that land use text from the PUD. We heard this at last Tuesday's Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission recommended approval. We did include a proposed motion in our staff report, and there's 11 conditions we've recommended. The only addition outside of our regular standard conditions was to correct the name of the plat to Delta Landing Phase 1 Commercial. I'm available if you have any questions, and Nick's here as well.
Are there any questions for Austin or for the developer representative?
I do have a request. I know that street light plans or something that probably, have those already been submitted?
Not yet. I
know
actually
that's-
talked to Nick about this week about it, but to get it in queue.
Okay. I just think, I know that with a lot of the phases of whether it's neighborhoods or whatever else, there is, sometimes there's incandescent, sometimes there's LED, there's, different, options there, and I think that we need to have some forethought, into that, making sure that we have LED fixtures, because I think that's where things are going, and just with trying to work with energy after the fact or retrofit them or whatever else, it can be kind of cumbersome, potentially.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that's already something that's on your, I'm sure that's something that's already on your radar. It may already be in the plan, I don't know.
I know Energy has pretty specific design requirements, everything new going in, and I
Okay.
think it's already LED, but we can make sure that it is.
Okay.
And from our office, when Scott has been ordering lights for these new subdivisions, we have a new internal policy that we're only doing LEDs.
Okay. Well, I guess it's because it's a mixed use. I didn't know if it was going to be considered residential, commercial, or what it was going to be and what the requirements were there. So that was why the question came up.
We can check with the developer and see if, I'm almost, in my mind, I'm kind of picturing that in that phase, it might be some kind of lamp post or something, sort of regular streetlights, because they're trying to make a little downtown. So
Right.
we'll figure out what they are and get back to the board.
Okay.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak about this topic?
Are we doing all three at once?
No, we'll have to vote on them individually. Did you want to speak to this one?
Yes, I did.
Yes, sir. If you would come to the podium and identify yourself for the clerk.
Hi, my name is Dan Bearden, live at 1065 Ferroni. And for this one, I only had a comment about a typo I saw on the submitted plat. I guess that's page 1 of 2. In the notes, it says, I don't know if I can read the tiny print, the proposed use of all the land in the subdivision is single-family dwellings. I think that probably isn't correct, because,
Where are you seeing that?
Where are we at?
Right here,
right,
these notes.
Oh,
I'm sorry, right there.
Oh, yeah, that's the general residence.
I'm sorry, am I on the wrong one?
So that is something that needs to be changed.
Yeah, and,
And the developer's nodding as well, so.
and then I had there's no indication in the text here of what will be built there, and, step 3 of the proposed motion says, following plat approval, the developer will submit 2 complete sets of construction plans. Is that going to be, my question is that going to be discussed in a public hearing, or, because we have no elevations, I mean, are they putting in the junkyard, or? Sorry, that's a little too facetious, but,
So I will say that this is a PUD, it has design guidelines in it, we know the general character of the buildings, and our staff will make sure that the building plans adhere to that.
okay. And then my, I guess my final point would be that according to the zoning ordinances in appendix, I think it's C, there's a official requirement that 100 or so units be built before commercial construction begins, and this doesn't address that, doesn't address the timing. And I guess I'm concerned because they're already laying curbs out there. I don't know if y'all have driven by it today, but hundreds of feet of curb is already out there before y'all have approved the plat. I guess that's getting the cart before the horse, and I don't know if that reflects well on the attitude of getting this done well. I guess that's all my comments, so thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Austin, would you address that last thing about putting the curbs in? That seems pretty normal as to what we do.
Yes, sir. So with this being a PUD, the PUD serves as a preliminary plat. And so once the preliminary plat's submitted, it authorizes the developer with construction drawings to go ahead with construction with the understanding that this final plat substantially conforms to that of the preliminary. Our subdivision regs say the board shall approve it. And so that's the safeguard the developer has to move. Once the preliminary plat, in this case the PUD, was submitted, and the final plat, as long as it matches, he has a bit of a safeguard to move ahead with construction. So it does move at that pace in a lot of cases.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
There wasn't a height variance granted on this PUD, was there?
No, sir. It was
Okay.
in the text of the PUD, that's where the height, the bulk requirements are listed in there. And so with it being a PUD, basically the setbacks, the building heights, the densities are all dictated in that text. And so if they deviate from that, that's what would dictate a
Okay.
variance.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, is there a motion on item 10? Go ahead, Alderman.
You didn't address the other questions that he had also. He made a statement to allude to a question about could no commercial be built, letting you build 100 homes. So could you address that for the record?
Yes, sir. So in the PUD text, they did reflect that this one in particular in the text is flexible with the commercial coming first or the residential coming second. In this case, they are submitting 107 residential lots in tonight's meeting. It's just not heard yet, but they do have that flexibility in the PUD.
I just wanted to make that be part of the record for other reasons. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Will you come back to the podium?
I guess I'm being a stickler, I'm sorry. The text in the PUD says that no building permit shall be issued until a final plat of the proposed development or portion is approved, filed, and recorded. No building designed or intended to be used in whole or in part for commercial purposes shall be constructed prior to the construction of less than 25% of the dwelling units or 100 units, whichever is smaller. That's black and white out of the code, Appendix B. I said C earlier, so I had that wrong. How do you change that? I don't think putting it on the HUD proposal does it. The ordinance has to be modified, and there's a whole article on how to modify the ordinance. So whoever wrote and passed this zoning ordinance did it for a reason. I don't think that this board sitting by itself without a formal written proposal to change the ordinances can proceed. It says in the amendment section, it says the city of Hernando shall have the authority to amend or change by ordinance the text or the map of the zoning ordinance in accordance with the provision of this article. And there's a page and a half of provisions to go through to change this. So my point is that I understand we play nice with one another, but you're actually violating the zoning ordinance by not requiring proof that those units have been built before commercial occurs, unless you go through the amendment process to amend the building code. So, we always have the understanding that there's rules, and then there's superior rules, and even ones above that. I think that y'all may have non-intentionally changed the building code without following the right procedure in the past approvals. You could probably imagine someone could come up with something totally outlandish in a HUD proposal and, going against written code. And y'all need to address how this can be done formally and completely. Every builder now is going to expect to have this section voided, which is essentially what y'all said you've done. And so I'm just trying to say that I don't think you followed the right procedure to make that exception to that sequence that's called out explicitly in the code of ordinance.
After I make a statement, I'll defer to the attorney and the planning director. But we ask them, when they're doing a large development, to do it as a planned unit development, because then we can customize what happens in there and not have to go by all of the C2, C3, C4, or all. So we're customizing it, and it's a plan with a lot of give and take. It's a negotiating process in a PUD, and that's where we got to with it.
Right, these are specific requirements for PUDs. It's not a general requirement. It's under the section, the PUD, Unit Development District. I meant to write down which subsection this is, but it's page 78 of the code.
I think we done heard everything, right?
Yeah. So, yes, sir. Okay. We will take it under advisement and ask our attorney his opinion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, we'll have a motion.
I make a motion to grant final plat approval for Delta Landing Commercial Phase 1, consisting of one commercial lot of 1.60 acres west of McInville Road and south of Pleasant Hill in Section 31, Township 2, South Range 7, based upon the finding that was submitted. Final plat generally conform to the requirements of the city code and ordinance, subject to the following condition that's noted 1 through 11.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 11 is PL 1833.
Yes, sir. This is the second request tonight for the Delta Landing subdivision. Nick Crean is also representing PL 1833 for Delta Landing Commercial Phase 2. I mentioned the background of how we got here tonight. This lot in front of you now is one commercial lot on 3.69 acres. And also in the exhibit on page 4, you can see in the vicinity map where this is located. The primary focus of this development, this portion of the development, is to serve the residential lots that are in the next application in front of you tonight. It's my understanding this is going to lag behind the plating of the subdivision lots because of the soil tests, but it's on the agenda for final plat approval to create the commercial lot. As previously mentioned, this does substantially conform to that of the PUD and the preliminary submittal. The required setbacks are listed in your staff report, and the restrictive covenants, I should mention this is the last one, that were codified in the PUD document will be carried over to the restrictive covenants for the last application, this one, and the next application. The Planning Commission heard this at their last Tuesday meeting and recommended approval. I did include a proposed motion in your staff report with 10 standard conditions. And you can see the 50-foot property buffer on the north-hand side against the existing subdivision of Hall Road was dictated in the PUD, and it's been listed on the plat as a non-disturbed area property buffer and 50 feet just to be left alone to act as a buffer against the subdivision. I'm available if you got any questions, and Nick's here tonight as well.
It looks like this one has the same note about single-family dwellings.
We'll get that deleted.
Any questions for Nick or for Austin? Are there any questions from the public?
Thank you. I'm Dan Bearden, 1065 Fernie Drive. The attorney never gave his opinion on the sequencing information. I'll just note, I make the same notes as the previous time I was up here. I think it's to not have sequencing noted in these three proposals, requests for plats, is an error, and I appreciate you dealing with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? If not, is there a motion?
I know you said it was gonna lag behind, most likely. What, do you have a timeline or anything like that? I guess just,
At this moment, we don't know the exact timeline of how much it'll lag behind. We just want to bring them all together at one time, so that it comes in different meetings.
Yep.
Any other questions? Not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Motion to grant final plat approval for Delta Landing Commercial Phase 2, consisting of one commercial lot of 3.69 acres west of Mackinville Road and south of Pleasant Hill in Section 31, Township 2 South, Range 7, based upon the finding that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the requirements of city's codes and ordinances, subject to the following conditions, reference items 1 through 10 as part of the motion.
Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Item 12 is PL 1836.
All right, PL 1836 is the final Delta Landing plat tonight, and the request is for Delta Landing Residential Phase 1. This proposal has 107 single-family residential lots, 7 common open spaces. The setbacks listed in your staff report are the bulk requirements for each. The townhomes on the southern side, you can see are fee simple ownership. Each lot will be individually owned. As dictated in the PUD, those are quads of 4. The remaining lots are single-family residential, with the setbacks also listed in your staff report. As I previously mentioned, in the development plan on the 5th page on this staff report, you can see this development is all single-family residential and does include the roads that connect back to Mackinville Road. So this will be the first phase that gets installed because it provides access to everything else inside the subdivision. The restrictive covenants listed in the PUD will be codified in the, associated with the plat when we record. We did have one note after talking with Nick late last week on something we caught on the plat, is the alleyway between Bolivar and Sunflower. We'd like to request that that specifically be labeled as a private drive, not to be maintained by the city. That's the intent of all involved, it's just not listed on the plat. So I think it'd be important to note that the alleyway between Bolivar and Sunflower is a private drive and not to be maintained by the city, since those are rear-loaded lots. This proposal, as I mentioned previously, does substantially conform to that of the PUD and the preliminary plat. The Planning Commission heard this at last Tuesday's meeting and recommended approval. And the proposed motion includes the standard 10 criteria and the 11th request being that private drive. I'm available if you have any questions, and Nick's available as well.
Any questions or concerns from the board? Any questions or concerns from the public?
Austin, I may just be getting older. Where I'm having a hard time seeing where that road is you're talking about.
So if you go to page 3 of 4 on the
Yep.
plat, and you see Bolivar Drive's on the south, and then
Yep.
Sunflower's on the north. All of those lots are
Okay.
facing the streets. That little drive in between them is just not noted on the plat, and I think it can create some confusion later. That's what's intended to be a private drive, to be maintained by those homeowners.
So it's Bolivar and Sunflower?
It's this road between those two.
Here and here, this little through.
Yeah, I just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
What it said. I'm sure
So
your
wh-
vision's better than mine.
I don't know.
So are all the roads counties in the Delta?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
So is it the homeowners association that'll fall to?
It's gonna be a pretty intense homeowners association with all the common open space involved.
Right.
There's a pretty good portion south of the plat where all the access of the townhomes would be, and then the internal access alleys are proposed to be privately maintained too.
Nick, do you have a timeline for this construction?
This one is ongoing now. We're installing curb for the main
Yeah.
entrances out there now.
and right away there, so on drainage and the rest of it. So we're working our way back. This will be the first plat to be recorded.
Okay.
Okay.
Did this allow for the sewer to be run to?
Yes.
Okay,
So it's going all the way back to be able to connect to the sewer.
okay.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Bearden, were you wanting to come up and speak again?
Yes. Thank you. I just, trying to get all the i's dotted and t's crossed. I appreciate the statement on sequencing, and somebody will be watching to make sure that happens. Also, there is a typo or this difference between the staff report and the agenda. The agenda item 12 indicates 86 single-family residential lots and 4 common open spaces on the 35.02 acres. And the,
Yeah,
You could get that.
there's an amended agenda over there that changed that. We caught that error early, yes, sir.
okay, that's good news.
It's highlighted on this agenda as an amendment to our agenda.
Okay, I didn't have time to look at that one. And I would make a comment. As far as I recall, and I didn't take the time to look at the earlier Phase 1 documentation like I should have, but it looks like, I believe this area right off the entrance circle is all slated as senior citizen housing, meant to be smaller lots, zero lot line type stuff. It looks like this has been changed to only develop part of that. And in addition to that, they've added in condominiums and some of the other single lot homes. So that realignment does not comport with the PUD phasing that was approved. So I wonder if someone could talk to that and explain why that housing is not going to be developed at this point.
So, that's a future phase. It's the PUD dictates it has to be single-family residential for senior housing.
Yeah.
That portion there is just not proposed to be developed now. I'm guessing it's coming soon thereafter, but not there. And then these were reflected in the PUD
As Phase 1?
as a proposed land use.
Right. No, I'm not saying that the land use is wrong. I'm saying that leaving out this block here is at odds with what was approved in the phasing in the PUD discussions. So leaving that out is different than what was proposed and approved earlier.
I don't know that I've ever seen a subdivision that phased exactly the way the initial plat was because things changed so much. But as
Okay.
long as they conform with it in the end, it's okay. You know, the market right now probably dictates with these high interest rates that they might not could sell that until the next phase. So they only want to plat as much as they think they can sell.
I understand that, and I just, these changes are, since I'm not involved in the day-to-day process, to leave out half of that senior citizen housing is, or approximately half, is quite a big change, and I just want to note that. If they come up asking for that to be converted to commercial, that's going to cause a big problem. I just want to, because that's what I see. I say, oh, they're not going to have residential there, it's right next to the business area. You might be facing the argument and discussion of why they're going to put in a change to request that become commercial, because that would be a pretty nice commercial-sized facility. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion to grant final plat approval for Delta Landing Phase 1 subdivision consisting of 107 residential lots and 7 common open spaces of 35.02 acres west of McInville Road and south, if I can turn the page, and south of Pleasant Hill in Section 31, Township 2 South, Range 7, based upon the finding that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances subject to the following conditions, and I reference items 1 through 10.
Do we need to add 11?
Yes, sir.
Do what?
Add the private drive?
Oh, yes, and didn't we discuss that like a year ago, making that a private drive?
It just wasn't noted, that's what they said, he wanted to be noted in the conditions now.
Yeah, but we've had this conversation in the
Yeah,
past,
it's-
right?
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yes, I include in the motion making that a private drive.
Second.
There's a,
Question.
go ahead, Alderman Miller.
Shouldn't that have been 102 and 4 common instead of 107 and 7?
Nick and I talked about that, so it's been done different ways in different parts of the county, where it can be hashed out as just a note on the plat to be privately maintained. It's-
No. I'm talking about in the motion, in the proposed motion.
The number.
The number, we went to 102 and 4 common, but the motion said 107.
It's supposed to be
seven.
107 and 7. I thought our
The
amendment,
the agenda is different than the staff report.
That's what I'm saying. Now, which one?
107 and 7 is the correct on the plat.
Okay, so we just got it wrong on that.
You got it wrong on
107
the,
and 7.
so the agenda, is wrong. I want to clarify that for some people, so we'll make sure that we don't.
Yeah,
the
107
actual
and 10.
report is correct.
That's correct.
The amendment's correct, but this amendment is correcting the agenda.
We got.
Okay.
I'm doing it for clarification.
Okay.
You good?
There's a motion, and there's a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And the motion passes. Item 13 is PL 1841, request for final plat approval for Winningham Estates subdivision, Section F.
Yes, sir. This is PL 1841, as you mentioned, Section F of Winningham Estates. This will complete the western half of the subdivision connecting to Glen Road. This section is 28 lots, 3 common open spaces. I've listed a brief description of all the phases, how we got here tonight. The zoning was approved in 2005 to PUD. Section A was approved in 2007. Section B, 2017, post-recession. Section B in 2022, Section D in 2023, Section E in 2023 also, and this section here tonight of the 28 lots. It's been mentioned before, but there is a construction entrance off of Highway 51 that was approved in the previous phase. And all the conditions in the PUD we've requested to be included in the restrictive covenants. Also to be included with a joinder to link to the existing section, so there's uniformity with the HOA. We did include a proposed motion in addition to our standard criteria of number 1, that there be no access to Gwen Road on lots 219 and 220. This was brought up by some of the neighbors at some of the site visits a while back. And it's understood with the developer. I think it'd be a nice note on the plat to make sure that future neighbors think that the access would be into the curb. We did hear this at the planning commission last Tuesday night, who recommended approval, and the final plat is included in your staff report, as well as the development, an overview of the development towards the back of your staff report that shows the preliminary plat that was approved with the PUD and shows how this does substantially conform to that. One thing to note is the streetscape along Gwen Road is proposed to match similarly, like a berm and landscape plantings what's currently on Nesbitt Road, or Pleasant Hill, and the applicants agree, and they've listed a common open space along that frontage. And the no access to lots 19 and 20 are for the northern side of that lot. All those lots have to face internally on the service drive, so no driveways would directly access Gwen Road. Andy Richardson's here tonight representing the application, and I'm available if you've got any questions.
I've got a question for Andy. I think it's an easy one. I know early on in that subdivision, there was a lot of that water that was heading west towards Gwen Road, and y'all put in the detention pond to catch it. Yes. I think I've been told that the bulk of that water is now going back to the east. This detention pond will just catch 4 or 5 lots.
Well, that detention pond is gonna be on that, common open space, lot 222.
Right.
Essentially catches, I'm gonna say 2/3 of this phase.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yes, and then the rest of it is going back east.
Okay. And you got it engineered where it's gonna catch it all?
Yes, oh, yeah.
And we've solved the problem of it going next door into the existing home. I just wanted to make sure that we addressed that this evening. Any other questions?
You were talking about when the water was going over the road right there.
Yeah.
And getting muddy on a good storm or whatever else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it got pretty
And-
bad.
And in people's homes too.
Yeah, I mean, people.
Garages
Yeah.
and houses and everything.
Okay.
Like all this got videos.
Any other questions while Andy's at the podium?
I think, well, I'm sorry, not Andy, Austin, I think that's a good idea to put those items on the plat because those have been, those were concerns that I heard back before our ward switched over, but,
Any public have comments or questions on this one? Thank you, Andy. Okay, if not, yes, go ahead.
Sorry,
Dan.
I just remember one.
Keep going.
Have all the trees been, or all the trees removed that are gonna be removed, you think? From all those lots and everything? Yeah. Okay. All right. That was a question somebody had for me, and I honestly didn't know. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? I don't want to rush anybody. If not, is there a motion?
motion to grant final plat approval for Winningham Estates subdivision, Section F, consisting of 28 single-family residential lots and 2 common open spaces east of Gwynn Road and north of Nesbitt Road in Section 25 and 26, Township 2, South, Range 8 West, based upon a finding that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city codes and ordinances, subject to the following conditions 1 through 13.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion carries. Item 14 is a public health and safety cleanup hearing for 511 Hill Street. Austin?
Yes, sir, this is a code enforcement hearing, CE 1935, a public health and safety hearing for 511 Hill Street, as you mentioned. We did post the property, and I talked to Alderman Miller today. We sent the certified letter, and it actually got back to us today as undelivered, so I believe there's going to be a request.
Yeah, we, after talking with the homeowner, which is present tonight, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Michael Johnson, we're requesting, we're gonna propose that this be continued for 60 days for him to, come back with us and plan, table this to October the 15th. Give them an opportunity because, like I said, we got the letter the day that it just returned on today. They never received it, but they still here tonight anyway to make sure what's going on. So I'm gonna make a motion that we table this until October the 15th to give them an opportunity to come back with the city with a plan for action.
Second. There is a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. All righty. Item 15. We're now on the discussion of the road survey plan from Civil Inc. I think you all have copies laying on your desk. Come on up, Nick. As y'all remember, we approved money to hire Civil Inc. to come up with the road improvement plan, and they're here to give a very brief summary of the plan tonight.
I'll be very brief, so then y'all can ask any questions y'all might have. So kind of start with what we did. Y'all, most of you know what we did. We went through, conducted a citywide road survey assessment using what is called the PACER scale. So we rated all the roads on a 1 through 10 basis. We then also met with staff to collaborate on planning, to determine best practices and approaches for various situations. We also then selected treatments for each individual road and produced a cost estimate for all the roads in the entire city. After that, we created a 10-year maintenance plan to address road conditions across the city. So, big problem across the city is $22 million. We got a $22 million problem, and that's all the roads across the city. This chart you see here on the right is showing each amount of roads and each qualification through the PACER scale. So you can see the majority of the roads are in a level 5. being fair condition. A level 5 is typical of like a road that would have some base failure, so that would be the start of like a more expensive repair. Won't get into much details there, but so we set up a 10-year budget for y'all, an annual budget of $2 million. Now, what we are proposing is not to go out there and just treat all the worst roads in the city. You need to treat some of your best roads, some of your okay roads, and some of your failed roads. So we want to try to treat as many road miles as we can every year. So this is a typical yearly schedule to where we touch 25 lane miles in y'all's city in 1 year. So we would spend $150,000 on light preservation. That is a road that was rated between 8 and 7. Spend $1 million on a medium preservation, which would be a 6 to a 5, and then $850,000 on your failed roads 1 to 4. The idea behind spreading your money across all the roads is it's like, you know, you're going to change the oil in your car instead of replacing the engine. So let's maintain some of our roads and get the ones that aren't failed yet to keep them from being failed. And I will show some pictures in future slides that is a good example of a road that could be preserved, and but it starts to fail over time. So how did we get here? Us doing y'all's road survey in 2018 gave us a unique look at getting to analyze y'all's city from a different outlook, because we had that 2018 look to really look at. And it let us dive into how we got here. What is different about the city? Well, in 1990, before 1990, y'all only had 4,700 people. So y'all had 4 times the growth from 1990 to 2024. That's just in population. Majority of y'all's city before 1990 was west of the railroad track. What that is, that's what we're calling the core of y'all's city. Those are core roads that were built hundreds of years ago that have a really good base, have been overlaid many, many times over years. And then post-1990, y'all have had explosive in growth, with majority of the growth in 2000 and 2007. Why is that important? Well, with the majority of y'all's growth happened 2000 and 2007, those roads are now 20 plus years old. So they're at the end of their life. They're at their failure point. Another reason that it's important is that with majority of your roads being built pre-1990, your old core road has got a different degradation curve. What that means is they last much longer. They take much longer to fail. So roads that have been built post-1990 are going to fail much faster than the roads that were built before. And that is not a knock on today's construction or anything like that. That's just the fact those 100-year-old roads have got 36 inches of gravel and asphalt and concrete and things that normal cities don't have in their old core roads. So where are we going? With a plan that you try to treat as many miles as you can every year. The picture on the left is a good example of the right half of the road was treated with crack sealing and a micro. The left half was just overlaid and then waited till failure. So that is a good example of how when it fails, it fails. But on the right, with some treatment and some maintenance, you can preserve that road and not let it fail. Now, the 2 pictures on the right are 2 pictures from y'all's 2018 and your 2024 road survey. What we did is we went and found an exact crack from 2018 and found our exact picture from 2024. So you can see in 2018, it was just one crack that ran across the road. So example of preservation is if that crack was sealed in 2018 and a micro surface was put over, a fog seal was put over, it would have been preserved and you wouldn't have any failure. So on the south, on the bottom picture, you can see that crack is broken into base failure. So you can see on the right side, you start to see base failure and where the ruts of the cars travel. So, and a good example of this one crack, to crack seal that road, that one crack might be $30, but to repair that base failure might be $2,000. So to let it go to a base failure point, it drives your cost up tremendously.
What road that is? I'm just wondering.
Don't say that.
Middle buster. So,
It just looked familiar.
one thing that we did find interesting too is that your old core roads were not built for the kind of traffic you've had. So if we go back to this, previous slide, you see that our population at 4 times, our traffic on our old core roads has increased as well. So we did see some fatigue cracking and some rutting, which is a sign of increased traffic on some of your roads. One thing too that we did put in the report was inflation and growth. So we noticed from 2018 to 2024, y'all averaged on a 3% increase per year in lane miles. So you're adding to the amount of roads you have to maintain 3% per year on average. We also saw from 2018 to 2024 a 51% increase in inflation. So we recommend planning for a 3% inflation cost. So what that would do to you if you start with $2 million in 2024 budget, by 2034 you need to have $3.46 million just with inflation and just with the 3% growth per year. And I will open that to questions. And I've got Barrett here as well that can answer a lot of questions. And we'll always be here for questions. If y'all think of something later, feel free to call us. Be glad to answer.
So you had mentioned in a meeting earlier about, as part of this is maybe shifting to term bids.
Mm-hmm.
How would that work?
So we have set up term bids for a couple cities. So what you do is you set up a term bid. It's a 5-year term bid that does change by year based on fuel prices. They can opt in, opt out, but what it does is it allows y'all to bid it, and then we can set the work per year. You're not going out and bidding 3 roads. You're not going out and then next month bid 5 roads. It also allows you to get the best pricing, because now you're lump sum pricing this thing to one contractor who gets to do $2 million. You're not bidding out little pieces of projects that are $200,000 to $500,000 a piece. So you get pricing based on $2 million instead of $100,000. So we could, set up a contract where we would bid term bid. You would bid a term bid based on asphalt price, based on labor. You would then have a term bid for crack sealing, micro, and it's multiple contracts. So you might not have one contractor that does it all. You will have multiple.
What kind of assurances is there, like if, you're saying 6 months into it or, whatever, and the work's not what you were expecting or anything like that?
You have the same assurances as any contract. Of course, you don't have to use it. You can still go out to bid. With the term bid, it's just there if you want it. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, there are obligations. You set parameters that you're going to, budget $2 million a year. If you spend 1.7, they're okay with that. If you spend 2.5, they're okay with it. But you have that flexibility in that.
What if we get midway through the year and we go, well, we bid $2 million, but we can only do $850? Like, is that something, or is there a minimum that we'll have to do?
We've never done a contract where there is a minimum. That would be something that could be worked out in the bidding process and could be structured in how you bid it. But yes, it's a custom thing that can be done however y'all want to do it.
How often do you recommend we update this, what you guys did?
We recommend 3 to 5 years. 3 years is aggressive, but it's the best because this is a snapshot of 2024. So this report is not going to take into account as those roads degrade more. So best case would be every 3 years, worst case 5.
If we spend the 2 point whatever million a year in 10 years, where would we be as far as our roads?
You're going to slowly start getting rid of those failed roads. You're going to keep having to spend the $2 million forever. You're not going to get rid of that maintenance anytime, but your roads you're touching 25 miles a year. So you're gonna start touching a lot of miles. So in 10 years, you're gonna touch every single road in your city. And at that point, you're gonna be in a good maintenance program where you're gonna be maintaining those roads and they're not gonna be failing.
It really has to be more than that, though, because we are a developing city. Like, we just final plat approved however many, another mile or two of road.
And that'll come
Right, so I
in with
mean-
your 3% inflation and 3% growth.
Yep.
If you plan for your budget to increase, and, you know, it's also gonna be something as you update it every 3 to 5 years, those new lane miles will be taken into account as well.
Okay, that's what that's reflecting is the growth of city streets
And the inflation.
Inflation.
and the inflation. Okay.
At 3%.
And a couple of the ones on this list, we've paved since you've done your
Yes.
drive-by, so we'll be able to start marking some of those off. Any other questions?
It definitely seems a lot more cost-effective and efficient to do a term bid, if that's something that we need to consider in the future. I don't know what the timing on something like that would be, but we are in the middle of the budget process, and it may help us with budgeting.
Yeah, we
Future.
put a certain number of dollars in paving, so we could just, go out for a term bid for those amounts of dollars and see how it comes back.
Is there a downside to it? There's pros and cons to everything, right? I mean, but
We've done it for 4 cities now. We haven't really run into downside. It's all,
come on now.
I mean, there are issues. You do have to monitor the contractors. You do have to
Yeah.
keep up with things, but you have to do that anyways. I mean, everything has struggles, but, I don't really see a downside. The big benefit is that you get to bid it all out lump sum and have that contractor there ready to go. So if y'all approve a new budget year, your contract's in place. It's already, you don't have to wait for bids.
What's the average savings with those 4 cities? Just by doing the term contracts?
It's really hard. Prices have been fluctuating the last 5 years. It's really hard
Right,
to.
yeah, and fuel's been all over the place, so I was just wondering if it was, 5%, something like that, that still is a savings to each city.
We've never
By
sat
doing it
down and
that
actually
way.
put pen and paper to it like that. There are savings as well with engineering fees and stuff, if you're bidding it 5 times at $200,000 a pop, or if you're bidding it 1 time,
Right.
Every time you bid a project, there's work and fees associated with that as well, so, but that is, small percentages on the total scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's hard to be exact, because every city's different on what their budgets are, but, I mean, as long as it's a savings, that,
But it's been hard for us to put it in that type of a percentage of savings because, you're comparing a city that bid something last year to then we bid term bids this year, so it's really,
Right.
prices have been changing so much.
I know there's no way to know this necessarily, but I guess what I have a hard time with when we talk about doing, 7 and 8s, spending money there, when we have such long lists of 3s and 4s, what's the rate of decline, really? I know it's probably different for every single street, because to your point, you said some of them are 80 years old and have more compaction, and then some of them are something the developer did 20 years ago, and they're falling apart.
And year by year, y'all staff can help, look at that. Is this an old road? Is this something we could wait on? Because, this plan is a tool to then plan each year. So, this plan does not outline what roads are going to be done every single year.
Right.
So there is flexibility in this plan to allow, okay, this road is an old core road. It's not going to degrade. This road isn't an old core road. We need to fix it first. So there is flexibility for stuff like that.
The only other thing I was wondering is how we get online access and all that sort of thing. Is that, because I remember we asked about that.
We have all that, and Barrett, is that?
Yeah, I was gonna put all that together and, communicate.
Okay.
And set up the training.
From a staff level, we pledged to not put this on a shelf. We're going to use it. We're very grateful to have this tool.
And this, along with another tool we have, it's important that we as a board also commit to working the two that we have. Because at the end of the day, the board make the decision. Mayor, I hear your statement, but at the end of the day, the board have to commit to also to live with this document and work with it. And don't let political pressure deviate us because of a wagon with a lot of noise with a road that's a 7, get ahead of a road that's a 1, and we know as a board that we need to do it. So, I mean, I think the board, we need, as a board, we need to commit that, we're gonna commit to it because, we don't want to say we spent this money just for the sake of window dressing it.
I mean, I think we've done well, with the engineer and everybody, as far as in order of dire need. We've, hit those first.
I agree, but I'm saying we had the document and we deviated from it. That's my point.
Right.
We deviated from, we had the document, but we deviated from it. We got to commit. And I'm not saying we did a bad job. I think we did a good job too with what we did within the structure. I'm just saying we need to be more committed, especially if we want to try to raise that level to what they recommend us to do. And this has been being raised also with, money going into streets. But we have to buy, I mean, all bought in. I think that this board is all bought in. I just want to iterate. I wish that we stay that way, bought in together to try to make the best decision with this plan for the city instead of for a certain area. That's all. I wish we stay there. I totally agree with Alderman Ross.
I think along with that, the mix of kind of preventative maintenance and structural improvements needs to, we need to follow that because sometimes, I know that's going to look like we're not really fixing things for some things, but in the end, it's going to save us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the folder that you have, there's 2 sort of brochures, and those are from a national resources. Yes, ma'am. And they're just sort of informational flyers or pamphlets that we'll send you electronically, but it's to help talk to citizens about the plan as well. Just sort of at a high level, we have a plan. It's going to help us over the long. Like you said, it might look weird to work on some okay roads, but there's a reason, and those are sort of geared to help you talk through that. We have those electronically. We'll share them.
Any other questions? Okay, I don't think we need a motion on this item.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate the work.
Thank y'all.
The prices go down next time on it. Praise the Lord.
Might do get one free, right? Might do get one free.
That's what I'm just saying. Help me, so. Yeah, I'll take a thumb down.
Andrew's negotiating 3 years in advance.
What he just said, what he just got through talking about? Term.
That's the big one.
Is that what you call it? I'm trying to do a term bid.
These are
He said we need to do it every 3 years. So I'm gonna try to get him locked into a price here in 24. When we come back in 27 or 28, come on now. I mean, he come out there now. I mean, he can't deny it, 'cause he said it.
Thanks
He was just
again for
talking
all
about-
y'all's work.
Thank y'all.
All right, we're going to move to item 16. Joe Frank, would you like to present that?
Okay, about a month ago, we received bids on a water plant out on Bahia Road. You can see the well tower out there now, I think, of course, that's the location of the water plant. Cleveland Construction Company was low bid, had 2 bids, one from Cleveland and one from Phillips. Now, this water plant's going to look different from the other 3 plants. So,
In a positive way.
sir?
In a positive way.
Yes, it's, the tank's underground, you won't see the tanks above ground. You will see some building above ground, but it'll be brick building type look there in that neighborhood, so it'll look quite different.
Are you recommending this as the lowest and the best bid to the board?
I do recommend the lowest bid of Cleveland Construction Company.
Any questions for Joe Frank? Any questions from the public?
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you, Joe. Item 17. This one I have more questions on from citizens than any other thing on the agenda. The approval of the urban camping ordinance. Who wanted to present that? You want to do it, Stephen?
Well, I guess I can, sure. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I'm just trying to control where people can so-called camp in the city and our public properties. And so there are some enforcement measures that are set in here. No arrest can be made without warnings given. Property can be confiscated without warning. If someone's going to camp somewhere and just leave a bunch of property, then the officers can go ahead and take that and move it. So we have definitions here and steps to be taken to control camping in just certain places in the city.
And this was brought about because we had some people just setting up camp in some of our city parks, just pitching a tent and staying there. And these are not camping parks, and it made people a little uncomfortable with people camping in our parks. And so Jared brought it to our attention, and we engaged our attorney. And can you speak to the Supreme Court decision and how this fits into it?
Well, I'm not sure that I can.
Okay.
If you want to table this, I can give you a full report on that.
I'm a little bit, what I noted was I listened to the Supreme Court decision that just happened like 3 weeks ago, and everything in here looked to me like it coincided. It fit within that.
Yeah, I think this was written before that, and so, quite honestly, Board and Mayor, I'm not prepared to do that tonight, but I mean, we can take this under advisement. I think I probably should look at that to make sure that we would be in compliance and that our ordinance would stand under that ruling. So I can offer that to you.
You want to table it for 30 days, or just till the next meeting?
Probably have the second, the next meeting will be fine.
Good.
Motion to that effect.
Second.
So motion and a second to table until the next meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Item 19. This is the official public hearing for the fiscal year 25 tax levy and proposed budget.
You skipped
18.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sign ordinance.
I didn't want to talk about the sign ordinance. Item 18 is the sign ordinance discussion and committee recommendations. The committee met and had a lot of good discussion, and some things came out of that, and we'll let Austin tell you what they are.
Yes, sir. We got some feedback in the public meeting that there was some requested additional signage for certain uses in the city. And so we formed the committee with the chamber, Alderman Wicker, Alderman Lynch, Steve and myself, and the mayor, just to go over this. And so what we came up with was the general request is that churches needed additional signage because of their abundance of holidays and events that go with those types of things. And so in working with Stephen, our recommendation is that we don't specifically define churches. We go about it as a public assembly or assembly hall for deliberation of education, instruction, and worship for 50 or more. We thought this would also help cover the schools that have back-to-school things, football games. And so the current limitation of 30 days is proposed to be increased to 90. So an additional 60 days for those places of public assemblies, which would cover our churches, and received some preliminary correspondence that this would work for Christmas and Easter and certain holidays, and the 90 days would be the 90 days per calendar year. So you could do 10 9-day events, you could do one 90-day event, but it would be additional signage for those types of uses. And so if y'all see fit, we can have this effective in 30 days, and I'll advertise to get it published.
Is that the only change that y'all came up with?
Yes, ma'am.
Have y'all started enforcing I think y'all mentioned last at the meeting, y'all gonna start sending some letters out, or have y'all done that?
Yeah, will you address that?
Kind of waiting on this.
Oh, okay.
Once this is done, we have a couple of letters that we have enforced, that we need to be enforcing on, so once this is done, we'll start that process.
Austin, under the addition of the public assembly, where you limit it to 50 or more persons, 50 seems high to me as a starting point. How did we come up with that number?
I think just average congregation size, we felt like that would cover just about everyone for a meeting. We can lower it, of course, it's just the number we felt was about average for a congregation.
Because I don't think the congregation behind Subway, I believe that's less than 50.
You think it should be
I
lower?
don't think we're trying to make it specific to.
Well,
So I was trying to keep it.
well, I'm just saying though, we don't say it, but that's what moved the needle.
Sure.
Okay, because we can just be straight about it. The churches, the school didn't act for it, but churches act for it. So we don't typically say church, we use the number to encompass the church. But I would say, why single out this church? Because the church I'm in is not this side. I'm in South Haven, so it ain't for Miller. I'm in South Haven, Mississippi, and I'm above 50, so it's not self-serving.
I can tell you my.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's how we got to the number.
The number was just trying to not have banners everywhere. And so I just came up with that number. I didn't use it to exclude any particular assembly, okay? Other than to try to exclude every assembly, you know, not to have every assembly be able to have a banner. I think that's a public interest and public safety issue in that. So that number is not, that number is not something that would defeat this. And I am familiar with Supreme Court rule on this. And so that number can go down, certainly. It's just a matter of what you determine.
I was just asking question how we got it 50 because I look at the David and go live.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of what this board wants to allow as far as banners and what kind of symbols.
I just asked the question, is 50 a magic number?
It's not.
I'm gonna go with what you say, but I just have to raise the issue. Somebody got to speak for David.
Well, that's for a building that has a rating of 50 people or more, like where there's space for 50 people or more, or 50.
You don't say that.
Building used for the gathering together of 50 more, so used for the assembly's room size of 50 or more.
Capacity.
You understand what I'm saying?
May not be that many people in there, but the
I just hope it be
capacity.
clarified, that's all.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
We could clarify that to say a capacity of 50 or more.
Capacity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Because I feel like that's how Austin was going to interpret it and administer it, but if it could be clearer, that's even better.
I think that would be a good suggestion.
Thank you.
This day and time, we need all the clarification we can get.
Thanks, Go Live.
I did want to ask the committee, I know I spoke to Austin and at least one of the committee members about temporary signs in residential areas, like that number being increased. What was the verdict on that? Obviously, it's not included here, so I'm assuming it was just not seen as a.
Correct me if I missed something, but I thought the current number of 2 all the time, 4 during election cycle.
It goes up to 4.
Up to 4 per residential lot?
So whether it's whatever event is going on, right? We're not necessarily saying an election, but let's say whatever.
Say anything within
Right, whatever any kind of event there is that's going on, that you're wanting to show support for something or whatever it might be. So if I have
those senior signs, and you've got,
If I have two signs.
sports signs.
If I have two signs that say a Hernando Tiger lives here and, whatever, we support whatever school, and then there's something else that comes along, another event comes along, and I want to support more than two individuals or more than two things, I am going to be restricted to do
four
that.
signs.
That to me is restrictive of people's ability to express themselves. That's my personal opinion. I understand, Steve, I understand.
No, yeah, I get it. I mean, that's the purpose of an ordinance. I mean, you restrict certain activities, so, I mean, you can allow as many as you want.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I see it. I mean,
right.
it's just, it's a government thing, trying to govern certain activities, and, you try to come up with a reasonable number.
Right.
I think Austin kind of came up with that one, so there's no perfect scenario that for everyone to be happy all the time with that, but, trying to draft this ordinance within the parameters that we're given.
Right.
You can do more. Certainly, that's a concern of yours that you go that way.
I'm not trying to be a fly in the ointment or anything. I think it's just a.
I get it. I mean, no problem. Me,
I think less situations would probably come up than would. I mean, it's mainly during for school events and us football teams, and a lot of the schools have that, recognizing the students and recognizing.
Austin, did we ever get any
I
clarification
don't
on the
think it should
Christmas
be a problem
lights?
4 per lot.
Decoration, I talked to Stephen about that, and the honest answer is there's probably a way to define it as a sign and regulate it, but the effort it would take to do that, it's better just to have non-enforcement.
Ben, going back to your question, I'm just sitting here thinking, I know some people who are very, very involved in politics and like to support their candidates. And I can't picture more than one place that I've ever seen more than 4 signs at during an election. I just don't think it's, when it was, a free-for-all, there was nobody putting up more than 4. So I feel like 4 should be plenty during that election cycle.
Mm-hmm. I think that where I'm thinking of is that there's things that we have that we support, right? We've got, one for our church and one for, hey, we support the Hernando Tigers or whatever. And if we have 3 or 4 political candidates we want to support, then we got to take those up and put them in the garage while we're doing that to be in compliance or whatever else. I mean, that's basically what it is. And is that really going to be, and people may not necessarily complain about it. I understand that the only reason these are ever going to be enforced is if somebody calls in and says, hey, this person has too many or whatever it might be.
We're not going out looking for problems.
Well, the whole
We can
purpose is just
always
to try to
change it,
put a
right?
limitation on
That's an
all of
issue.
the unnecessary signs everywhere, and people just putting up signs and just overloading these lots. I mean, that's what the whole purpose is about, so I don't think it's
Right.
gonna get crazy.
And I think we need to say it out loud so we all remember it and so that the public can hear it. This ordinance still absolutely positively never allows them in the right of way.
Right.
They're just
Right.
not in the right of way. You gotta keep them back in your yard or back in your business, not in the road right of way. And many of the signs we see up today are in road right of ways.
I mean, and I know you can't differentiate between political or content or anything like that, but the political signs are 60 days prior to whatever election it is. Okay, I just want to be sure on that one.
Or those are
Prior to the event.
events.
To
those
to
are
that
events-
election,
event
whether it's
signs.
presidential, whether it's city, whether it's state, whatever it is, 60 day, nothing
They're event
nothing
signs, right?
before 60 days prior to that.
You can, a residential department, you can have 2 all the time, so theoretically, you could advertise for the event. You can just have 2 additional signs, 60 days before an event.
You can leave a candidate sign year-round.
You just get more.
Okay.
And I think Alderman Piper's question is that enough? Is that number enough?
that's all I'm getting at. I mean, is it,
Like presidential
Is-
signage
Well, I
or
mean-
whatever you're wanting.
is anybody opposed to having it bumped up a
think-
little higher, 6 or whatever else? Like, is it really something that?
For now, I mean, have we gotten complaints? I mean, have people
Well, we're not quite
expressed
there yet.
concerns? Like, I mean, I think 4 is a good starting point, and if people, you know, coming up in the next few months, if we hear a lot, then let's readdress it.
I think personally, the thing that's gonna be more of a problem is the commercial lot signs, because we reduce those and limit to what, 1 or 2?
8 square feet.
Yeah, that's gonna be more of an issue.
That's gonna be an issue
Then
because
they'll
of
take all my spots. when we try to
multiple
put signs up.
candidates that might want to be on that one commercial lot.
But the other piece of that is, commercial places have a sign on their building. They've got multiple square feet of sign up already.
I've just had, you know, someone come to me with that concern.
In my mind, someone in the sign-making industry has convinced everybody that the bigger your sign is and the more you got, the better your business will be. And it's just not true. If you
Yeah,
got
I
a
mean,
good
I'm not
business, you
concerned
don't
about
need a
the
whole bunch of
size.
signs.
I'm not concerned about the size. I think on the commercial lots, the max is 2, and it can't be big anyway. But what if there's, you know, what was brought to my attention, I think it probably was brought to yours too. Whoever knows that person gets to them first, you know. After 2 candidates are on their lot, that's it. Nobody else can advertise, even if it's a very sought-after location. So that came to light, was the number on the commercial. So, I mean, that's something to possibly, you know, look at. And that's what's going to happen when election times roll around. That's going to be one of the first things that's going to come up. It's not so much the residential, it's the commercial. So I think we're going to hear that one again.
We do have an election cycle coming up for the presidential election. So we can
Correct.
see how we get through that one and
Right.
see how that works.
So just in a, week and a half, we're entering the 60 days.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some violations, I've seen some violations already.
Seen quite a few.
And I mean, just like I said, the whole purpose is to limit just the overabundance all over the city. And a lot of people complain about that, how trashy it looks. I mean, you know, that's the whole purpose of this anyway. So, I mean, you can't please everybody. And we can tweak things and, you know, try to see what situations come up the most and what's most common. But I think it's a good starting point.
So are you needing a motion on this tonight, Austin?
Yes, sir, and I can add the capacity language to clarify that, what
Okay.
that number's for.
So if the board makes a motion to pass these changes to the ordinance, they would be effective in 30 days. Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the changes as recommended by the committee, adding the capacity to the gathering together of 50 or more persons.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And the motion passes. Thank you, Austin. Now, item 19 is the official public hearing on the FY '25 tax levy and a initial discussion of the budget. Y'all have the millage sheet in front of you that Ed has put together for us. Are there any explanations needed on the millage adoption sheet? And this does not request a tax increase, just for clarification.
The library, what was the library millage rate? Not the dollar, what was the millage rate last year?
I don't know what the millage rate, I don't have last year's with me.
Did the millage rate increase then? Did the millage,
The .8235,
did it increase?
I don't think you did. I don't think we increased that rate. Have you got the old one with you, Ed?
No, it did not increase.
Okay, this,
2.02 as well, 2.03.
okay. Okay.
Any other questions on the tax levy and millage spread? All right. Y'all have a budget in front of you, a proposed budget, I should say. And we put another sheet on your desk. I had made 2 errors on the revenue section of the general fund. One of them, I was not aware that we were going to get a continuing stream of opioid settlements. I thought it may just be one-time money, and I have become aware that there will be a continuing stream. So I placed $40,000 as an estimated opioid settlement income on line 001-000-239. And then I had just literally entered a number wrong on the 001-000-332 court cost revenue. I had placed 10,000 in there instead of 100,000. That was just my fingers slipping. So we have an extra 130,000 in revenue on that sheet I set in front of you. And I just dropped that to the bottom contingency line, which bumped our contingency up to $1,009,000 and some change. So that's the only change from what I sent y'all. So are there any questions? I know there are questions. Who wants to start with some questions on the general fund? If we could just start there.
It looks like, I know on building permits, it's gonna be shallow, like fairly considerably. We budget the same number again for this year. Is there, I know, obviously we had some this evening. We had some final plat approvals this evening that are gonna drive some of that number, but.
Yeah, we feel like we're gonna play catch up next year on that with, and Austin, if I say something you don't agree with, we don't wanna overstate revenues for sure. But we feel like we're gonna get a couple of hotel permits, which will be big ones next year. And then we'll have those commercial buildings, or at least the houses, starting to get permitted out there. There's gonna be more houses permitted in Scott Meadows. So we feel like we will hit the number on here.
I think with just interest rates going down, or projected to go down, we're gonna see more building. People that have been sitting on the sidelines, we're gonna see an increase there.
Well, there are people looking to buy houses and there aren't
enough,
inventory.
yeah, the supply is still kind of.
And there'll be more people looking if there's an interest rate drop, and the builders will be building more if there's an interest rate drop, so
Right.
we could see some compounding of that, the revenue. And the number I put in for sales taxes looks to be, we've got one more check to come in, but I feel like that's the number we're gonna hit in the current year, which is up about 5.8%, I think, right now over last year. So I'm not, I feel like we'll probably have an increase, but I'm just budgeting that flat to be conservative. And of course, the property taxes, all the first ones up there, the first 6 or so, those are just straight from the tax assessor.
So on the sales tax, that we'll just say 5.6, because that's easier.
Yeah,
Is that inclusive of August's revenue?
it is. So we've got one more month we'll drop in there. That'll show up about the 13th or so of September. Yeah, we were down. Did you note that we were down in the last check, the one in August? We're not sure what caused that. As we move on from the revenue, are there any questions in the admin? I want to make sure everybody understands what we did in the admin personnel. We were just trying to make things a little more equitable and right. So there are some of us whose salaries come out of the general fund and out of the utility fund. The utility fund only makes up maybe a quarter of the budget / personnel, and a lot of those of us who are out of both, we were halving them. So we took many of those and put 3/4 of our salary in admin personnel, in the general fund, and left a quarter of it in the utility fund. And then there was one, I think it was Ms. Garcia, the bookkeeper, and we moved all of hers into admin. We were just trying to make it a little more correct. So that's why one reason you saw the administrative salaries bump up quite a bit, and you'll see some of the offset of that when I'm able to give you all the utility budget. You'll see those numbers probably went down a little. And you will note that there's an election expense in the admin budget because we'll be having to pay for an election in the spring. Alderman Miller, the boardroom chairs are in there.
Like, yeah, well, that you should have called you and doctor. You called that day. You said calling me out on foot. Like I wanted to chill.
My chair worked fine.
Well, we'll trade.
I'll take that too.
Any questions on anything in the general fund before we move on to something further down the line? Of course, as everyone knows, the general fund is police, fire, ambulance, dispatch, animal control. I'm sure I'm leaving some out, but it's the streets fund as well. The streets is at 201. I want to make some notes on that. The MPO, the line number is 001-201-742. That's the MPO Mount Pleasant Bike Lane. That's an estimated number we'll spend out of there. That's an 80-20 match. So whatever we spend, we'll get 80% of it back in revenue. So we coordinated that with the revenue estimate. And that is just our best estimate on that one. It could change a little. And then on the Nesbitt sidewalks, we've got 200,000 in there. That's another 80-20 match. We're not sure how much of that will be spent this year, but we did correspond that with the revenue.
Look at this. Did we get this back?
Yeah, that was in your board packet.
No, we got it emailed, but we didn't get it printed
Yeah, I
out.
think that's
We didn't get a printout of the whole thing, just the corrected portions.
No, I'm just,
Oh, yeah, she emailed it, didn't she?
Yeah,
Yeah, we have that emailed.
yeah, I was just pulling it up, I was looking at it.
So
It's all here.
there's some big numbers in the street, so I want to make sure we look at them. Joe, would you say it's fair to say that we're not going to get the final invoice on our Holly Springs roundabout in this budget year? We'll be building it and probably paying for it after October 1? Yes. Okay, so I moved all of that to line item 201-769, the $461,000. We know that's an actual number, that's the bid that we had gotten in. So I moved that into next year's budget. The MPO Mackingville overlay, this is a big one. It was originally set to be $2,708,000. It's probably $4 million or so now. So we're taking the money that we're getting from the MPO, which is $2.2 million, $2,201,000. That's in line 775. We'll spend that money there. That's the MPO money. Then the other 1.8 to 2 million that we need, you're going to find back in the Mississippi Modernization Act. We'll match it with that money. So we'll be spending part of it out of the general fund and part out of the Mississippi Modernization Act. Okay, and that kind of sums up the street stuff. Some good news, the 201-820 and 830, that is a loan and debt service, and that was a note that paid off this year. So that's why you see zeros there. The Brownsfield grant in the 375 category, whatever we spend there, we get back in the revenue line. This is 100% match on those. We just spend it and get reimbursed. So we estimated we would be spending 100,000 out of there and probably wrapping the Brownfield grant up in the coming year. Let's see. We did budget a little bit of capital for the awnings over the outside kennels at the animal shelter. We had some cloth ones put up, and they were just blowing away with the wind and not holding up. So she wants to put a more permanent awning over those. I'm just kind of hitting the high points. If I miss something you want to talk about, holler at me. So we ended up there with, if you'll look at 001-550-910, that number where it says 879,853 in contingency is $1,009,000 now, which gives us a total general fund budget of $22,728,64. So it'll be a $22 million general fund budget. And then the library is $165,000. We talked about when we were looking at the millage. There is another thing to point out. We have run out of money in the cemetery maintenance fund, just due to that note we're having to pay off. We've got another year and 3 quarters on that note. That's been eating up some of our money. So I did have a line item in the general fund to transfer $30,000 to the cemetery so we could continue to maintain it. And we should be able to, in a year and 3 quarters, when that note's paid off, it should be self-sustaining again. And if any of y'all know somebody that wants to buy a reasonably priced grave, we could sell a few graves and help offset that. 105 is the parks. So if you start at 105, 200, they do get 2 mil tax as part of their revenue. Their revenue their money from the city general fund has been decreased just a little bit. You'll notice that. The transfer from general fund was $740 last year. They have done a good job with their expenses and their cash brought forward, so we've knocked that down to $640. You can see all those different revenues from the sports, and Jared is here if y'all have questions for him.
105, 500, 637, it says bathrooms at Conger. I thought we had budgeted that last year for those items. Or I'm thinking about the bathrooms at
Kirkendall, yeah. He wants to redo the ones at Conger and make the doors face the street for the men's room as well, because we're getting a lot of vandalism in there, and just do some work in there to make those better and less prone to be vandalized.
There was I didn't write down the actual number, but there was an increase in some field maintenance that was a lot more than last year. I was wondering what was it based on?
Jared, you want to address that?
643.
Yes, that is 105-500-643.
Yes, that's what I was wondering about.
That's the note we put beside there was extra work on the fields, Jared. Do you remember that one?
Is that the
Baseball field maintenance.
Yep, so increased dirt, basically added infield dirt, conditioner mix for the Civic Center fields. And there's some other maintenance along with that, things that just come up usually for, aside from added dirt, but added dirt would be the larger expense.
And we did put an estimated $150,000 in there for the Kirkendall track if we've applied for a grant. If we don't get the grant, obviously, we're not going to do that work this year. That's in 105-500-717. There are vehicles in this budget, 2 trucks, 1 light duty and 1 heavy duty. There's $90,500 in there for that line item. There's a rototiller and a dump trailer for $12,000.
So it's 1 vehicle or 2 vehicles needed?
Like a smaller crossover for a programmer car, and then a heavy-duty truck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 2, that's what I see. I had to scoot my page over a little bit, sorry. 2 trucks.
Any questions on the parks part, other than what y'all have already asked? All right, I'm going to jump down to the hotel motel tax. With the Hampton Inn being out of service, which it sounds like will be for another year, we don't have a lot of revenues in that account, but they were 45,000, and they're probably gonna only be 25,000 next year. So luckily, there was some cash built up in there, so we're not gonna have to borrow from anywhere to make this one balance. And we should get, when do you think Austin, I'm looking at you to ask, do you know a date approximately when the Home 2 Suites will open?
They keep pushing it back, probably spring.
Okay.
Maybe that'll offset some of the other,
That'll help, for sure.
yeah.
So what's the timeline on, Whataburger?
I've heard mid-November for their grand opening.
Yeah. Their dollars don't fly into the tourism fund.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm just talking
Need
about.
some sales tax
revenue
dollars,
period,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we've got, on the horizon, things we know are gonna open in the next budget year. There's an O'Reilly's Auto Parts under construction with a sign out front. There's a Whataburger under construction. And
There's a new Dollar General.
the Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree.
The Dollar Tree, that's the third one for sure.
I just
So those
saw
are all
that
three
sign.
retail organizations that'll generate more sales tax revenues to help us pave more streets. All right. Any other questions that y'all see as we go through the rest of the budget? The one thing I want to point out is the Mississippi infrastructure revenue. That is the money that we get from, let me make sure I'm on the right one.
Internet sales tax.
Yeah. So we'll get about $1.5 million in revenue next year. We got $1,409,12 this year.
What item's that?
304-00-200. So that is the internet tax, our portion of it the state gives to us. And we have been earning some interest on it. We'll probably, we could possibly earn $100,000 interest on that account next year, based on what we're earning right now. And we'll have a transfer from surplus, so we've got some money in there. And there is, if something big comes up, we'll have a little over $1 million in contingency there. I kind of want to keep a little contingency there because we're still going to be spending $1.5 million on local roads with this. If we get partway through the year and want to bump that up to $2 million. But I was kind of thinking the $1.5 million plus the $461 that we're doing for the roundabout.
Yeah.
That would be $2 million on local roads.
Isn't there some uncertainty about the McInville in front of the school there? How much that's gonna cost?
There it is.
Yeah,
So
quite a bit more than we originally thought.
Wasn't the last estimate about $3.82 million?
If they're waiting on the full geotech report, because the subsoil is so bad, that's the cost of it. And so it's 3.8 was the last one. As of last week, we'll think it might be closer to 4, but we're supposed to have the hard number in this week.
I think there may be some help too.
We are, in full transparency, we are asking the school board for some help, and they want to help us. We got a report from Wagner Wagner Engineering saying that their trucks and construction caused about $700,000 worth of damage. So they are asking their attorney to get an AG's opinion to see if they can help us. If so, we'll have another $700,000 we can put towards some of this.
Yeah, that road's in.
I didn't want to
it's
budget it
sunk.
because we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sunk in places. It's so bad.
Do we think it'll be done before the school opens in the next?
Absolutely.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're working with the MPO and Wagner Engineering to head in that direction now.
The MPO's got the money, we just gotta.
They've got the 2.2, yeah.
We may have to find 1.8 million somewhere.
Well, and I've got,
You budgeted 1.6, looks like.
yeah, we've got some of it in here.
Or that project alone.
Trying to remember where
Let me see where that one was.
Yeah, we need to amend, in my mind, this Mississippi infrastructure budget. And, let's see. Yeah, it's in there. It is, excuse me. We got the revenue up top. Look at line item 304-300-720. There's $1.5 million to pave local streets and $1.625 for match money on the MPO project. And that $1.625 would go down by $700,000 if the Board of Education money comes through. So we do have it budgeted.
We may be able to throw some of that money over into the local roads.
Right, absolutely. So, and the 400 fund, which is our utility fund, is the only thing that is not here. Lee and I will have that ready by Friday. We'll pop it out in the email to you if y'all would like to, if y'all feel like you'd like to recess this meeting till next Tuesday evening, and we just do a quick one with just that budget.
I do want to, this is just a reminder, because this is from what we discussed previously in terms of pay. I know we've talked about streets a lot tonight, so everybody can, we're going to hear a little bit more about it. But from what we pulled from our original 2024 plan, we had a list for 2025 that we discussed. This was probably back in May or June. And we have basically cast off about 830, it's 839,280 estimated. That's already been cast off into FY25. So like, as we're looking at these numbers, like one, like we've already voted on that to cast that off to next year. So that money's already spent, even though it's not spent
Yeah,
yet.
those are the roads out of the 1.5 million that we've already obligated ourselves to, and then we can start on the plan.
I just want to send that as, I just want to add that as a reminder, as we have the Civil Link report, we have this, there's not a whole lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, for the streets at this point, so, right. I just want to remind that. Yes, there is 39, there's an extra 39 there.
Yeah, from that roundabout, it came in under budget.
And Joe has the list of the ones that, we all have a list of the ones that we had agreed to do early in 25.
Right. We had to spend a little money on the right-of-way from Toyota.
Let me see that list.
This one?
And there's some on there that are to be done this, I guess, next 6 weeks or so.
We're opening bids on the last of the streets in this year's budget on August 30th.
Perfect. There is
Some
one.
of those are some of the ones that were outlined in the Civil Link report.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to have that one updated.
Do you have anything else, Alderman Piper?
Well, and I don't know if this is the time to discuss it or if there's other times to discuss it. I know we're going to have more future budget meetings or whatever. And I know we had discussed at one point, or you and I had discussed at one point having an executive session to discuss specific personnel pay.
Yeah, that's on tonight's agenda.
Okay, so that's on tonight's agenda. And then for the overall picture, right? One thing that I think may be in the best interest of the city in terms of how departments are run, not necessarily, giving our department heads some of that discretion to say if there's an across-the-board raise, all employees are eligible for that raise, but it's to the department head's discretion when that raise is awarded and it's not necessarily an automatic thing that happens based on that employee's performance or, whatever other factors that department head determines. And the main reason I'm thinking about that is just in terms of we want to trust our department heads with running their departments how they see fit. And if they think that doing automatic raises is the best thing, then that's perfectly, they're within their judgment. But if they have, one knucklehead out there that they need to really focus in on, hey, look, we really need to see some improvement over the first 90 days of the fiscal year, they should have that ability to say, you have this percent potentially coming to you, but we need to see these steps the first 90 days of the year or whatever it may be to make that happen. I would just like to give them that ability and tool to be able to do that. And I don't know if that's something that specifically has to be stated or, worked into the budget in some kind of way.
I think it would have to be stated, because right now the budget is presented as just a 5% across the board, so it would need to be stated if that's the way the board decides to go.
Correct.
I think from a
You
legal
finished?
standpoint, you'd have to state it.
You finished?
Yes, sir.
The raises that we give our employees is not performance-based. It's based upon the cost of living. So you're gonna tell them, to give a department head the ability to deny one person a cost of living raise because of performance, that's two different things. You're talking about performance-based money, and what we are giving are not performance-based. Am I correct? I think I'm correct. They're inflation-based. I'm the only one, everybody looking at me funny. Am I correct? I'm serious.
I don't want to speak for him. I think what he's saying is giving them the flexibility, because sometimes, like I think we just hired a parks coordinator or whatever. He came in at a certain salary. He's going to come in and get maybe a 5% raise. He's been here 2 months.
Well, I think, do you remember last year we had a budget about money with the fire department? That we gave them a big raise, and then 2 months later, I even asked Marcia, you want, they still get their cost of living too, even though we just bumped them. They got about 10 or 12% raise in less than 90 days.
Yeah.
Well, some of theirs are based on being becoming
This
certified.
was not based on.
Certifications?
No, it wasn't based on no
Levels?
certification, right?
It was
We
based
did
on
a pay adjustment,
longevity,
we did a
right?
pay adjustment on a big pay adjustment, then turned around and gave them the cost of living money also. Am I correct, Assistant Chief?
Yes.
I thought I was.
Yeah,
So-
we
so-
did it part of the position.
Yeah, and so, I'm totally against giving department heads the opportunity to delay a cost of living raise for an individual. I just go on the record for that. Because there are two, you got incentive pay and you got cost of living pay. Their cost of living went up just like the others that work for the city. Now, you're talking about performance-based, that's a whole different category. But to say, giving the department head, and I trust our department head, but to give them authority to hold a person money that was a cost of living, the cost of living still went up. That's just Miller opinion.
Yeah. And I think every department, currently, like, I think with both the public safety department, or with police and fire, and there are longevity, right? There's longevity increases.
Those steps on the pay scale, they're different,
Yes, sir.
they are still not cost of living.
I understand
Pay.
that. I understand that, but that is different from other departments, correct? So they do things a little differently. And so what I'm suggesting.
Are you
is
suggesting
that-
step in increased pay for them?
No, I'm not.
I'm talking about for our public work?
No, I'm not.
Them guys that
I'm saying
guy
because
down
they-
in a 12-foot ditch in a 20-degree weather, but they still off in a 12-foot ditch, and that ain't dangerous and hazardous?
I certainly think it's dangerous.
And
What
they
I'm-
8 and 9 hours?
What I'm suggesting is that every department has different challenges, and they have different ways of doing things, right, from a pay standpoint. So why not allow the department heads the ability to do things as they see fit from a financial standpoint?
You're still saying you're giving the department head the authority to deny a person a cost of living rate. That's a totally different thing. I heard you talking about hazard pay and all that. We talking about cost.
Legally, can we do that, Mr. Attorney?
Oh, yes, sir.
We can legally do that if we were to do what Ben's suggesting.
Yes.
But show ain't morally right. You can do a lot of stuff legally, but it
Well,
show ain't morally right.
When one of our department heads disciplines an employee, they come to us and we discuss it, and quite often, or sometimes, the recommendation is to discipline the employee for X number of days with or without pay. Right?
Correct.
So would that satisfy your concern since we do it that way, Ben?
I definitely understand. I understand that side of it, for sure. And I think, and that's, you're sort of getting to the root of what we're getting to, right? Is that if you have an employee that for some reason has been written up, let's say in the last 30 days, and then they get, I understand that it's a cost of living raise. I understand that side of it. Everyone's getting it, but you potentially have someone that is, that has a recent write-up or a recent issue that could be a tool that a department head uses as a corrective tool to have that person in a better place. I understand we have the suspension, right, and it could be 2 days. What does that equate to?
It's money,
Right.
man. It's
Two-
money.
How many working days are there in a year, right? So there's 250, 260. The 2 days is less than 1%. So I'm just saying that's kind of what I'm getting at is that, you know, I just think it would be an effective tool. I understand that everybody's not going to agree on it. You know, I campaigned on running government like a business, and some people don't think that that's possible. I think this is a small thing that is done, you know, potentially in the private sector that has not been done in the public sector, at least here. I'm not saying it's going to be widespread either. I think it could be something that 1 or 2 department heads sees as a useful tool, and certainly want to give them the ability to do that. That's just how I feel.
Let me ask this question then. Have a department head came to you and told you they want to hold back a person cost of living pay? You ain't got the name. Just let's be transparent. Has that happened?
So I have, I think I've spoken
It's
with.
a yes or no answer. Did a department head come to you
It
and
actually,
state?
I mean, it can technically be whatever kind of answer I think it should be. It
Well,
doesn't have to
okay,
be
then,
yes or
okay,
no
then,
answer, but
I just want to
understand.
make sure I clarify my question.
Yeah.
You got him there, you worked him up.
Have I discussed it with anyone? Yeah, I have, and some of them think that it would be an effective tool potentially.
Did any of them have enough to come to the mayor with that, since they work for the mayor?
Well, I proposed it as an idea to them. They didn't
So-
come to me with the idea.
So, I mean, those are department heads, and we are a legislative branch, and that sound like, executive duties and stuff like that to me. I could be wrong. From separation of power.
I proposed it to the mayor as well, and he said to.
Alderman Piper did come into my office and proposed it. What
I
if,
completely understand what you're saying.
what if,
It's pretty simple, I understand.
maybe not this year, but in the future,
I understand
we
that.
separate cost of living from performance. And we give the performance piece to the department heads.
Well, aren't we doing that already?
To Alderman Miller's point just then, I think that if a department head made a decision that a person should not get the increase, that's still up to the full board.
Oh, most definitely.
I
I'm
think,
not gonna-
I
I'm
think
not
it
giving-
potentially has the ability for some, and this is probably just maybe public works, some of the lower paid employees, is maybe an incentive to keep some of those kind of rock star employees in working here. I mean, you have a struggle retaining people, and so having somebody maybe give them a 7% raise, you have somebody who maybe not so good, giving him a 3% raise or something like that. And that's done all over the country. That's nothing new. We're not, reinventing the wheel, Mr. Miller.
No. They're only happening in 2 departments, Alderman.
Yeah, I'm just saying, well,
It's only happening in 2 departments. That nobody else, everybody love them 2 departments.
which one?
Oh, you don't know what 2 departments are? Oh, I'll name them.
Let me hear.
Fire department and police department. Had nobody in public works, had nobody in park department, had a fluctuating, incentive pay. But those 2 departments have, because they are public, they are the what? Public safety.
Well, I mean, I'm
agreeing with you. We shouldn't look at no different than them. But we do, though.
I think, I gotta like to do things differently. That's something, we could do something different here.
Well, I'm agreeing with you. Just don't leave them out all the time.
No, they get their step raises already. And I
I'm
don't
talking
think
about them Davids. I like that word too.
Well, the way you can do that, I'm just making a statement. The way you can do that to make some of the other department positions, like the step up for police and fire, those are based on certifications, and there are 1, 2, 3, or whatever their levels are, based on experience. You can have so-and-so operator level 1, 2, and you can do things like that because that's how it is when you're talking corporate. In your world and my world, you might have auditor 1, 2, 3, you might have, personal banker 1, 2, 3. It's based on what their job duties are, what their level of expertise and their experience is, and that's how their level of pay is, which you're already paying them on a certain level based on that anyway. Sometimes it's starting pay and you move them up based on job performance anyway. But if you want to actually get very technical with it, just number the positions if you're wanting to base it on merit and things like that to make people get to improve, because this person's operated 90 days or more at this level, and that's what fire and police do. I mean,
Don't we do evaluation?
I mean, you're evaluating after 90
Some do.
days or whatever. I mean, it's just the positions are all different. I mean, you can't say a policeman or a fireman is the same as the truck
I never said
operate.
that.
I know you
I've never been
didn't.
to
I'm
Senate
not
County.
putting
Yeah,
words in your mouth, so don't even go there, because I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying scenario of how these jobs can be coded, how they can be leveled off. Is just trying to not make a mountain out of a molehill of what he said. He was just saying it was just an idea, but just to define it a little more is some of these positions would be
I've,
graded 1, 2, 3, or whatever when they're hired.
So when Alderman Piper came to talk to me about some items on the budget and mentioned it to me, I've always wanted some of our department heads to have a little bit of control over some bonus, we can't give bonuses, but over some amount of the payroll. But then when Alderman Miller talks about it and calls it cost of living, and we know we're not even paying cost of living in this raise. So it's one of those situations that's hard to find a middle ground on and hard to make a decision on, because I do trust our department heads to give out raises to people who are doing better as a carrot to help with their performance. But I also understand that every employee in the city is falling behind on cost of living.
And because we're dealing with a budget, you can't just have random increases here and there if the budget doesn't allow for it anyway. So, I mean, it's something to kind of reevaluate when we're looking at some of these jobs as they're posted, how they're categorized. When you're talking about some of the, like parks and public works and things like that, and maybe animal shelter, things like that, that are different than other pay scales of other areas of the city. You can't just make it a blanket statement for everybody and it work.
We're going to have another meeting on the utilities budget. Why don't we all think on that for a while and see if we can come up with something on that, and, just think about it. We'll talk about it again on Tuesday if that's the night we recess to.
Get Andrew and Alderman Palmer, we'll calm him down, we'll get it straight.
I'm already calm, man. I just said, when you talk about holding a person less than cost of living raise, we're already doing them a disservice. The mayor just plain to say, we're not even giving what they deserve no way, because we can't afford it. And then to hold that down from there.
So what night are you wanting to?
The 27th?
Yeah, are y'all good with Tuesday night? Can everybody make it Tuesday night to go over the utility budget? We can do it every time y'all want to. If y'all want to do it earlier, we can do it at 5, whatever. And we'll do that when we adjourn. But y'all be thinking about what time y'all want to adjourn to.
5:30 would be a lot better for me.
5:30, okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
Just a little for thought there on the payrolls and salaries and stuff like that. So we are structured as a service tech 1, 2, and 3 in our water departments, supervisory roles, stuff like that. The problem is that we have to start everybody out if they're a service tech 2. We don't have a service tech 1 anymore because everybody makes a minimum of $15 an hour. So we had to eliminate the service tech 1 position. So we're starting them out at service tech 2. We have to start them out at the very top of that pay scale. So after 90 days, we can't give them a raise. There's no more incentive.
Right.
After that, and you can't have 15 service tech 3s. It just doesn't work out. Somebody's got to be a shovel guy. Somebody's got to be an operator. Somebody's got to be a supervisor. So that's where it gets a little gray. I agree with both of what y'all are saying. I do think there needs to be an incentive to do better, or hey, you did better, But I also think that we can't really, when you put it like the mayor said, when you put it as a cost of living raise, I don't think we need to mess with that. So,
Yeah, it's just not,
food for
it's
thought
not,
for next week in the, in the meeting. And also, I don't want to muddy the waters any more than they already are. But when we discuss a percentage, a $15 an hour guy's 5% raise is not going to be the same as somebody that's making a $65,000 a year salary. So if we did want to incentivize people with a merit or a raise or something of that nature, then I would like it to see it be simplified into a dollar amount. Easy money, hey, we give you guys, I'm giving you, Mayor, $10 an hour to spend on your employees, how you see fit. Whether it's giving somebody $1 an hour raise, quarter, 50 cent, or no raise. That way it's not I'm giving you 3%, I'm giving you 5%. Your 3% may be $10,000, his 3% may be 35 cents. So, just food for thought, sorry.
well, I mean, when you look at corporate versus city, municipalities and stuff,
Sure.
it's all based, there, you can't, corporate can say, hey, we did really well this year.
We brought that money in.
Cities are different. Cities are different. You can't say, okay, we're gonna give you a big Christmas bonus this year, and then cities are, you're just moving right along using every dollar that you've budgeted already.
Yeah, we
And
can't
if
do
anything
bonuses.
big comes along, then that's where the contingency, fund we have to have. So, yeah, you can't go apples to apples anyway when it comes to something like that, so, but I understand the
Y'all
idea.
ready to move to the next item? If so, I am going to close the public hearing on discussion of the tax levy and budget. And we're going to move to item 20. And this is not approval of the budget, it is approval of the tax levy for fiscal year '25 and approval to publish the resolution.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. And I think our budget calendar shows us approving the budget on September 3rd. So we'll have the meeting next Tuesday to discuss budget more, and then we'll come back for the September 3rd meeting to approve it. Item 21, utility adjustments. Can I have a motion on those?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Mayor, can we go back to 17 real quick?
Oh,
I had a chance to look at the case.
yeah?
The Supreme Court did make a ruling, they decided that there was no cruel and unusual punishment by enforcing the gambling ordinance. So our ordinance is
solid
with that 100%.
Okay.
We're on good grounds there, so I think we can go forward tonight.
So I just took a vote on utility adjustments. The ayes have it, that motion passes. Do y'all want to go back to the approval of the urban camping ordinance and go ahead and approve it based on what the attorney has told us? We can reopen that one.
Mayor, based upon information that we have been given, I make a motion that we approve the urban camping ordinance.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. All right. I need, item 22 is executive session for personnel matters regarding salaries. I need.
Motion for closed session.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. We are now in closed session.